Story 1. I am constantly learning new skills and maybe traveling the world. Story 2. Sitting in an isolated farmhouse, looking after a group of rescue dogs, preferably near the coast. Story 3. I could fucking rest instead of working myself to the bone. Story 4. I hope to be faced with that very problem when I retire in a few years. Story 5. Pretty much the same thing I'm doing now. I like my job, and I'd be bored out of my mind after 12 hours of doing nothing. Story 6. Be philanthropic. Find a way to give back either physically or financially. Story 7. I am packing and moving to Germany, where my retired military family relocated. They saw the writing on the wall. Story 8. Sleeping 100%. I might even have a sleep doctor like Michael Jackson did. Story 9. People often talk about what their dream job would be if they did not have to worry about money. For me, my dream is not to be hassled about anything. If I won a large lottery, I would wake up each day and only do what I wanted. Stay home and relax, visit a park or another place, or buy myself something. I would not be obligated to go anywhere or do anything I did not want to do. That is my dream. Story 10. I desperately want to work with local charities. I recently joined the board of my city's Pride group, and I wish I could dedicate all my time to it. Story 11. I would probably be shooting in my private backyard range. After that, I would settle into my custom-designed computer station, which would hold me at a ridiculous Tron angle, and I would play whatever game I wanted for a bit. Story 12. I would be in bed asleep instead of getting ready to go to work. Story 13. I would be out for a long hike enjoying this gorgeous fall weather. Story 14. Sitting in a Disney restaurant having breakfast. My wife loves Disney. Story 15. I feel like I am one of the few people who actually enjoys my job. I have even said in the past that if I were to win the lottery, I would probably invest in my current company, take on a larger role, and help fix some organizational problems. I am a software developer at a company whose primary business is not software or technology. I work on internal business applications, reporting, and automation. Story 16. I would write in most of my spare time. It is tricky because I am writing with the intent to sell. The work I really want to write is strange and has no market. I would love to eschew many conventions of story structure and genre. I want to write bad poetry and small, silly short stories. But none of that will sell, so if I want to build a career and make writing my job, I have to approach it from a business perspective. It makes me nervous. I do not want to come to hate writing because I have turned it into a job. Unfortunately, I have to make a living. Story 17. Definitely travel the world and later direct short films. Story 18. Buy a one-way ticket to the least traveled place in the world. Story 19. I am pursuing hobbies and working part-time for social interaction. My friends are still working, so traveling and doing hobbies on my own would be somewhat boring. Story 20. Travel somewhere, stay until I get bored, then go somewhere else. Story 21. I am sitting on the toilet right now. Story 22. I am writing my book and spending every day with my family instead of my coworkers. Story 23. I would train in martial arts more than I do now and learn different styles. Eventually, I would become an instructor. Story 24. I would probably be working or doing hobbies that make me feel productive. I have a friend who has a trust fund large enough that he would never have to work a day in his life, but he usually works to keep his health insurance. It's incredibly freeing to watch him walk out of jobs when he gets poor treatment from his boss or coworkers. He does not fight or get upset. He just leaves. Story 25. Right now, I would be in bed for another 2 hours instead of drinking coffee to get myself ready for work. Story 26. I'm wrapping up an early morning of fishing. I have a boat and live near the water. It was windy all damn weekend and perfect on this Monday morning. I would probably spend the afternoon getting a little exercise, doing a household chore, and taking a nap. Story 27. I am considering going back to school to get another degree. I want to attend law school, but at my age borrowing does not make sense. I would then be working without regard to pay scale in public interest law, where I may not earn enough to cover my mortgage or my children's college tuition. Story 28. I would go to medical school and volunteer for the rest of my life. Story 29. The same as I am doing now. I would continue my studies, probably move to a larger home, and pursue my hobbies. Story 30. I am doing it right now. Surfing Reddit, going to the gym and riding my bike. I travel when I feel like it and cocoon when I do not. I am enjoying the vacuum that the lack of stress has left in my life. Story 31. I continue to do work I love. I walk in the morning, chop wood, do yard work, and then work in the garage in my small repair shop fixing small engines. I take breaks when I want. Some days we get takeout and watch a movie, and I spend time with the dogs in the yard. You have to stay busy. For us, there is plenty to do. Story 32. I have been following the financial independence, retire early subreddit. I could retire in 1 year and just travel. I will probably travel for 2 or 3 years, though. Story 33. I am currently relaxing on the sofa with my kids, so life is not very different right now. Story 34. I had a friend who took time off after a layoff. He said that after the first month of sleeping in and having no purpose, he became depressed and needed to do something. I imagine I would feel the same. I am not sure I would get a job. I might volunteer or start a charity. Unless my friends were also retired, I would get bored. Story 35. I would love to take people sailing and set up a youth learn-to-sail program. Story 36. I am not working and am doing my best impersonation of a hot dog in my warm bed. Story 37. I will pursue some personal passions. I might occasionally give money to people I believe deserve it. I will develop a game or two, especially since I can afford to hire help. Story 38. I would travel the world, renting short-term corporate apartments for 6 months in major cities I want to visit. I would start with countries that do not require visas for that length of stay. I will also work toward obtaining United Kingdom citizenship, for which I qualify through my mother. Story 39. I work in the nonprofit sector, so I would likely keep working because the work is important. Story 40. It is my day off, so I am relaxing like this or perhaps doing the same in a nicer house in a slightly warmer place. Story 41. Traveling with my wife, reconnecting with old friends and meeting new ones across this beautiful world. We are seeing places we once could only dream about because of bills and the demands of life. Story 42. I eat so frequently at Golden Corral in Carmel Church that they named their banquet room after me. Story 43. In all honesty, I am working probably 30 hours a week. Life must have purpose, and I find purpose in my career, but not full-time. Story 44. I am sitting at home gaming while my wife plans our trip to the all-inclusive resort in the Dominican Republic. Story 45. I invest money in my community and time in my home and family. If I had many millions of dollars, I would own a beautiful but modestly sized home on a large plot of land. I would fund various local projects focused on 1. Helping people leave cults and isolationist religious groups by creating transitional community housing where they can live temporarily while they acclimate to regular life and find jobs. 2. Building and selling starter homes that young working people can actually afford for a small profit. 3. Researching fungi, including mushrooms, to improve the environment. With the right applications, they could help remediate landfills and may have potential uses in batteries to support clean energy. Story 46. I am sitting on a balcony, watching the ocean and drinking my coffee. Story 47. I am smoking the finest cannabis and having some fun at the nearest casino playing a slot machine. Story 48. I would travel the world. Most likely, I would visit every theme park on the planet first, then I would expand to places I have never been. During the kids' school year, I would buy pallets of wood from Home Depot so I could spend the day building fun things in the backyard. If I got too bored, I would open a seasonal mini golf course for the community to enjoy. Story 49. I work at McDonald's as a cashier and am a supportive coworker, treating others to food and making their day better. I am happy, optimistic, and help customers and coworkers for fun. Story 50. Scroll Reddit. Comment on posts like this. Do it from home, not from work. Story 51. The same thing I am already doing, Getting back into the job I love. Story 52. Honestly, I have no idea. I have no retirement to look forward to and have been living paycheck to paycheck my entire life. If I suddenly had money and could afford never to work, I would probably weep for a few hours. Story 53. Working for the fun of it on something I am passionate about. Story 54. I'd ride my bike for hours a day and work more on myself. Story 55. Hiking, fishing, cooking healthy meals, exercising, walking, exploring, and other activities. Story 56. Art and travel. I will start a small boutique or cafe that loses money but lets me gossip with neighbors all day. Story 57. I would like to say I am playing a game, but I am certain that if we did not have to work, my wife would have us traveling full-time and never be home. Story 58. I am working on a Bachelor of Arts degree in music, cleaning my garage and attic, and renovating my lawn. Story 59. Acquire a new embroidery machine and source or make blank garments. Then travel the country seasonally, setting up at gaming and comic conventions. Story 60. I'm still working. It would just be nice to live life debt-free. Story 61. I would have a room like Scrooge McDuck, full of golden heavy-body acrylic paints instead of money. I would dive into it like a pool because I would also have health insurance. Story 62. Sleeping, playing video games, and spoiling my cats and my husband. Story 63. I would build my dream house or travel the world. Story 64. I am unemployed, so I do not know if this really counts. Other than applying for jobs, I spend my days reading, running, and writing. I pursue a few hobbies. I would probably spend less time on the internet and more time hiking or traveling, but otherwise my days would remain the same. Story 65. Sleep, personal hygiene, video games, then pizza. Every day in that order. Story 66. I would be in a lecture hall. If I had unlimited money, I would start acquiring doctoral degrees like they were Pokemon. Every semester for the rest of my life, I would enroll in 1 to 2 classes I found interesting. Story 67. I am most likely working in my yard and gardens or flying planes. Story 68. Working life with nothing meaningful to do is just boring. Story 69. I would travel to see the world and take the time to learn skills to better help others. Story 70. Recently, I've decided that if money were no object, I would like to work for a not-for-profit organization, something to do with my free time that serves the community. I would then get a nice, private property somewhere to stay cozy, travel often, and live out the rest of my life. Story 71. I would buy several parcels of property in prime duck hunting areas and manage them for all wildlife. During each hunting season, I would give hunts away free of charge to people who could not otherwise afford them. These would not be for wealthy hunters who can already buy whatever they want. All expenses would be paid. Bring your children and enjoy making memories. Story 72. I am doing the same thing now, only in a much more comfortable chair. Story 73. Right now, I am retired and living in a federally funded apartment that covers all utilities. I am also on a meal plan that reduces my grocery costs. I receive a variety of senior benefits, such as 50% off cab fare vouchers and reduced transit fares. Story 74. I am working from home and running a slow report. I am sitting out back while it runs so I can return to work. If I did not need money, I would probably stay out here an hour instead of 5 minutes. Story 75. Ride the Venice Simplon Orient Express, a luxurious vintage-style train, or the new La Dolce Vita Orient Express. Story 76. I rode my motorcycle slowly through rural areas across Southeast Asia on a months-long odyssey, savoring the views, customs, food, and people while my home was being built by the sea or along a waterway away from crowded areas. Story 77. I take my grandson to different classes to discover his interests and encourage him. I think he would do well in martial arts, art, or baseball. He has remarkably accurate throwing ability at just 3 years old. He loves doing artwork with his mother and copies martial arts moves from a cartoon. He will join Boy Scouts when he is old enough. I also like to spoil my grandson and help him find outlets for his energy. Story 78. Playing and spending time with family around the world. Story 79. I spent most of my life in isolation. I tried to save money by not going out, worked long hours in a technical field, and constantly studied to improve my skills. The struggle to survive was isolating and lonely. I would build a family and a network of friends and spend my time with them. Life is meant to be shared. Story 80. Learn by taking classes, acquiring new skills, visiting museums, and traveling. Consider pursuing a degree in psychology or history. Story 81. I would be doing the same things those other degenerates are doing, but from travels abroad, sitting at the Colosseum and doom-scrolling TikTok or something. Story 82. I am on Reddit at work, so I will probably continue using it. Story 83. Since I wouldn't be at work, I would be out hunting, fishing, or traveling the world. Story 84. I'm already making video games, laugh out loud, and I could do it much faster. Story 85. I would have slept in, drank my coffee while watching YouTube and played some games. Then, around 12:30 in the afternoon, I'd head out to a disc golf course until it was time to pick my boys up from school. Story 86. I stopped needing to work a few years ago, but I am only 44. All my friends still work, and I live in a fairly small town. Why retire just to hang out and do nothing all day? I will continue working and growing my retirement account so that when I do retire, I might buy a second home somewhere or travel the world and retire in style. Story 87. I do not charge my clients because I am a counselor. I would never work full-time, though. Story 88. Continue developing games as an independent game developer without worrying whether a game will flop. Story 89. Be out on the range shooting, or if I own the land, hike around or use an all-terrain vehicle or a Unimog. Story 90. I would be traveling. There are so many places I want to see, but I cannot afford them. Story 91. I would look for a 2-room apartment so I can have 1 bedroom and a separate room for crafts. Then I would probably spend way too long on Temu or another shopping site and buy everything I want. Story 92. I'll do the same thing I do now, but be a lot more selective with contracts. Story 93. I am going to work, and I honestly enjoy what I do for a living. Story 94. It is my day off, so I will probably continue doing what I am doing right now. Story 95. I'd still be working, just not for someone else. You need to have something to do. Gaming or watching television all day is terrible for your health. Story 96. I would do the same work, but on my terms. I would install and service controls for intelligent buildings, taking only the jobs I choose and not worrying about profit so I could ensure I get the assignments. I would make a positive impact on the world, one building at a time, and still enjoy my life. That is my dream. Story 97. I am looking for a job because keeping that much money in the bank means I am losing buying power to inflation at an alarming rate. Story 98. I am planning to walk away from corporate America in about 5 years. I will still be relatively young, so I plan to work at a ballpark during the summer and go snowboarding in the winter. Story 99. I'd probably buy houses for my friends and family, and we'd all hang out every weekend. Then I'd dedicate time to something meaningful, such as community development or addressing homelessness. Story 100. I want to do something every day that gives me fulfillment while budgeting the rest of my money, so I do not end up like MC Hammer or Mike Tyson and lose everything. Story 101. Commenting on Reddit and having a scantily clad personal assistant do it for me. Story 102. Anything that crosses my mind and I feel like doing, not what I have to do because I am working. Story 103. Actually, sleep and wake up feeling rested and energized instead of the usual existential dread. Laughing out loud. Story 104. I do and I do not. I am doing the same as you writing on this post. Postscript. Retired. Not independently wealthy. Story 105. Treating my loved ones to nice things I rarely do, such as taking them out for a special dinner. Story 106. I am watching John Belushi's imitation of Joe Cocker and will walk my dog now. Story 107. I would work as a bread baker. Yes, I know I would not need to work, but it is something I love to do. I would also travel the world and learn different languages. Story 108. I am sitting on my couch because my cat is snuggled against me, and I do not want to disturb her. Story 109. Create an animal sanctuary. Finish development of my wife's invention. Pay off our debts. Help my wife trade her car for the one she wants. Exercise regularly. Play games. Travel. Help my neighbor finish building his library. Make general improvements to my community. Start a charity to pay for pet medical bills. Start a nonprofit that summarizes political candidates' beliefs and records on proposed legislation so voters can make a concise, informed decision at a glance. Story 110. Gym, beach, golf, poker, theme parks, hockey games, delicious restaurants, and playing with golden retrievers, donkeys, and octopuses, or cocaine and sex workers. Could go either way. Story 111. Probably still in college classes. Early 20s. 80 years without work sounds kind of boring and purposeless. Not having ever entered the workforce and never contributing to society would feel really strange and would make me feel bad. Being able to quit any bad job would be fantastic. Story 112. You are not likely to reach that if you believe in not working. Not having a job and not working should be two different things. In historical context, the question is basically what you would do if you were a landowner instead of a serf. Serfs who choose not to work will remain serfs. Absent luck, their children will usually remain serfs as well. Story 113. Painting and crafting. Simply being creative without any guilt. Story 114. I would not be on this work call discussing what we need to cover in our next quarterly business review. Story 115. It's noon where I am, so if I were home, I'd probably be just getting up. I don't know. I would meander around, straighten up a bit, and scroll through places to visit and spend a few weeks or even a month. I'd be waiting for electronics to arrive, like sound systems and computer parts, and children's presents for Christmas and birthdays. Gifts for my partner and for others I think should have new items such as clothing and shoes. Donation piles would be getting ready to go out the door. I don't know, whatever I wanted to do. I know I would build a custom house and invest in rental properties so my children have a good start in life and some passive income when I'm gone. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I'll reach 3 years of sobriety on November 4th. I wasted a lot of time and money and put myself and others through a lot of stress and hardship. I'm tired. I want to relax and have a peaceful finish to my life. I earn good money, but because of my past, I will likely have to keep working to support myself and save for the future. Story 116. Right now, I am probably sleeping. I am a night owl. Otherwise, I would most likely be playing a video game or working on my model trains. Story 117. I'm retired, and here I am mindlessly scrolling Reddit. I should go outside. Story 118. I would try to become a medical doctor. Or I would spend all the money hiring outstanding master mentors in various fields I want to develop, such as musical instruments, foreign languages, fitness, dancing, cooking, and watercolor painting, just to name a few. Story 119. Traveling and volunteering somewhere that makes my heart sing. I do not want to feel dead inside. Story 120. I'd love to buy a project house. One with a good foundation that can be gutted and rebuilt at my own pace. Working with my hands is very satisfying, and having plenty of time and money to do something like that would be awesome. Story 121. I am working on cutting-edge engineering. I enjoy my job and, as a workaholic, I welcome the challenges. Story 122. It's cold and rainy. I would be playing Ghost of Tsushima and drinking a cup of tea. Story 123. Content creation. YouTube coaching. I am trying to finish a comic or start creating animations, like I have always wanted. Story 124. Probably just getting home from a good mountain bike ride or a hike. Story 125. I make custom furniture. I really embrace the idea that you only live once and try any crazy idea I can come up with, not worrying if I cannot sell it. I also work on other projects such as cars. I love tinkering. Story 126. Traveling around Europe and the world. When I get back home, I'd live in a nice home away from people with the closest neighbor about 5 miles away, either in the mountains or on a tropical island. Story 127. Ah, I believe I will be doing the same thing. Maybe I will invest. Story 128. Keeping the shelter dogs company. I could probably convince my wife to help too. Story 129. I would travel and be a permanent beach or ski bum, alternating wherever I could find the best snow or sun. Story 130. Earn a Doctor of Philosophy degree in human-computer interaction, pursue additional doctorates, and travel widely. Story 131. Travel, sleep, and go to events like ballets and art exhibits. Take classes on things like pottery, cooking, and welding. I would get a part-time job doing something I wanted. Story 132. I create awesome computer game experiences. Someone else handles the coding and artwork because that is the job of a professional. Story 133. I am finding a new place to live while my house is being completely remodeled. I am also taking a few international trips and funding my children's college education. Story 134. Traveling, working in politics, taking college courses, or volunteering. Story 135. Probably the same. Relaxing and listening to music with my wife while our children play on the living room floor. I would not have the underlying sense of dread about going to work tomorrow or the anxiety about all the things I need to get done and figure out at work. Story 136. I should go back to university, audit courses, and keep learning until I die. Story 137. I am sipping coffee in a plush robe at a resort in Banff, facing the mountains and feeling the cold air on my face. Story 138. Playing video games while mature Japanese women, all at least 10 years older than me, gently and politely cheer me on and occasionally give me sips of water. Either 2 or 4 of them. I prefer even numbers. But no, I'm an introvert. I'd probably be playing video games in the same house, just fixed up a bit. Story 139. I spend time reading, exercising, and helping friends and family. Story 140. I could invest it or find ways to keep growing it. Even if I do not need the money, it would give me purpose. I can work remotely or have the freedom to go wherever I want whenever I choose. If I do not do that, I might end up drinking on a beach for too long and risk an early death. I am sorry you are feeling this way. I am glad you shared it. If you are thinking about harming yourself or are in immediate danger, please call your local emergency number now. If you are in the United States, you can call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you are elsewhere, please contact a local crisis line, a trusted person, or a mental health professional. Story 141. I would go for a long nature walk with my spouse and the dogs. Story 142. With school funding cut, I would do more volunteering at my kids' school. I would also run a knit and crochet group at the local senior center. I would host more dinner parties, game nights, and kids-themed events at my house. Story 143. 1. I would look into a part-time job that is low stress. I might also consider volunteering for a cause I am passionate about. I mainly want to do this to keep my mind sharp and continue socializing with people. 2. I would ride my motorcycle more. 3. I will continue going to the gym. 4. I will travel more than I do now. Story 144. Spending time with my family and rescuing animals. That is the kind of wealth I would want to live for. Story 145. I think becoming an eccentric entrepreneur philanthropist would be awesome. I would live life like Willy Wonka. Story 146. If it's the first day of doing my own thing, I'd look into renovating and planning my home. Story 147. I enjoy working out, doing sports and pursuing hobbies, playing video games, and traveling around the world. Story 148. Most likely I would be traveling and studying how to make my money work for me more effectively. Story 149. It is called retirement. Right now I am snacking and watching YouTube. It is not as exciting as you would think. Story 150. I already do, and yet I am on Reddit like everyone else laughing out loud. Story 151. Assuming either my ex and I get back together or I find a new girlfriend, there will be a lot of intimacy. Story 152. Probably looking for a piece of land to build a permanent home. Story 153. I love art and want to travel to visit the top art museums in the world. I would be art museum hopping. Story 154. Not feeling as guilty that I'm not doing anything today. Story 155. I will never work again, and I barely have enough money in the bank to survive. Story 156. Becoming a professional student. There are so many things I wish I could study or become, but my finances are limited. Story 157. Maybe I'll be baking in my farmhouse that is more than 100 years old before going out to visit all my rescued animals. Story 158. I play video games in my large entertainment room filled with gaming consoles and game collections. Story 159. That depends. Is this enough money to never work again and still afford travel and hobbies? Or is it enough to never work again but only afford ramen noodles and the occasional steak? If it is the first, I would travel or go camping. If it is the second, I would work part-time so I could fund my hobbies. Story 160. I will probably work until age 50 and use the extra money to build a larger cushion. Story 161. I have an idea for a video game, and learning how to implement it would be kind of fun. Story 162. Travel with the seasons. Do not worry about health insurance. Story 163. I am working a job I love for the pure joy it brings, without worrying about the pay. Story 164. I am probably watching Let's Make a Deal with the volume down, listening to a podcast on YouTube, scrolling through Reddit, vaping, and drinking coffee all at the same time. Story 165. Well, I am currently sitting in the bath, lightly caressing my testicles, so probably still that. Story 166. Art and helping other people. That is why I will never have that kind of money unless I win the lottery and hire an excellent accountant. Story 167. Living, probably building and selling things. I love tinkering and creating. Story 168. I write and record music, perform all the parts, and handle production myself. Story 169. I am in the garage working on something for the house that I never have the time and money for because I have to work just to keep the lights on. Story 170. Work on time travel. I have a few things that need correcting. Story 171. Travel and decorate my home in Spain. I am currently moving there. The plan is to live the dream without needing large amounts of money. Laughing out loud. Story 172. I'm sitting with my partner, drinking a large glass of brandy in Mallorca and scrolling Reddit. Story 173. Take classes. Learning is fun when it is not paired with extreme levels of stress. Story 174. Rescue animals and spend more time supporting my son and my family. Story 175. Fixing my house and my relationship 18 hours per day, rather than only 11. Story 176. Exactly what I am doing now. I would not change a thing. This is what happens when you are in your perfect job. Story 177. I restore old cars. I love 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s cars. They are works of art. I feel joyful when I see one driving on the road. Story 178. Set sail into fine woodworking as a business or side hustle. I'm talking about a shop with all the woodworking equipment. Story 179. Visiting each stadium in the National Basketball Association and Major League Baseball, going to lots of concerts at different venues, all while smoking the finest cannabis. Story 180. Exactly what I am doing right now, working and vibing in my free time. Story 181. At this very second I would be asleep. I am so tired. Right now I have no job. I would probably be living in a big ranch house with a huge farm-like backyard so I could have a ton of dogs and cats. Story 182. I work part-time and enjoy life daily. When I am there, it is wonderful. We travel about 2 months a year in total. Story 183. What I'm doing right now. Watching the news because my husband likes it. I'm doom scrolling Reddit. I'll jump into a video game in a bit, go back to the online class I'm taking, or paint. Story 184. Right this minute, I am probably doing the same thing, a family obligation. When that is done, I will probably be relaxing in my modest beach house on the Oregon coast. Story 185. I would still be working. I actually like my job, but I would take real vacations frequently. Story 186. Waiting for the snow, preparing the bikes for winter, and checking that the skis and snowmobile are ready to go. Story 187. It is the same work I do now in computer security. I would focus more on offensive security, like I did before we were ever paid to do this. I genuinely love what I do, and the only change would be that I would be willing to leave my employer and work independently if I did not like the management team. Story 188. I honestly do not know. That situation is so far removed from my experience that I do not know what I would want to do if I did not have to spend time at work. At first I would watch a lot of movies and play video games, but in the long run it is hard to imagine. Story 189. I lived this dream for 2 years and traveled the world. I spent another 2 years not working in the traditional sense, but I have been caring for elderly parents, so it is often longer hours than a full-time job. I completely recommend traveling the world. Story 190. Travel the world and learn about other cultures, or invest most of it to create multiple sources of passive income. Story 191. My wife left for work before 6 in the morning and had a 1-hour commute. She will be gone for about 12 hours. I would love to have enough money so she could quit when the time feels right. She could pursue activities she enjoys and not have to work 5 days a week. Story 192. It would take me years to decide. I am so far behind on everything. I'm not sure I'll ever get out from under it all. Story 193. Sitting on the couch with a cup of coffee, watching renovation and house buying reality shows. Story 194. Only fans of me are people who watch me pick my nose while naked and pay $1,000 to eat my boogers. Story 195. I'd get a hot girl, then some big blunts, then some Asian food. I'd never forget where I started, though. Story 196. Traveling in a camper van or relaxing in a cozy house with mid-century features, such as a conversation pit. Story 197. Honestly, I would probably be either doing what I am doing now or volunteering at the library. It would be boring not to do anything. Story 198. They are probably still lying in bed scrolling Reddit, to be honest, though they might be in a nicer house and laughing out loud. Story 199. Move to England, live in a cute cottage, and pay someone to maintain the garden. Story 200. Right now I am preparing to sleep. It is almost midnight here. Story 201. Get a cozy cottage and do volunteer work helping people. Story 202. I'm spending time with my little boy, and I hate that I have to be away from him so much every week. Story 203. Learning another language, traveling, learning to cook, and driving out to see my brother and his family. Story 204. I would still have a work-from-home job, but take time off whenever the children did not have school. With enough money in the bank, I would hire a full-time cook and a housekeeper so my wife and I could focus on giving the children the best life. When the children had no activities, we would travel the world. Story 205. I travel the islands for extended periods. I now stay a week at a time. There are some places I do not have the fuel range to reach safely. Story 206. I would probably continue to work, but in a low-stress, non-profit job in a field that I love. I know a man who has inherited a substantial sum of money, but the trust required that he work at least 3 days a week for about 30 weeks a year. He went to the local church and ended up getting a job floating among area churches as a fill-in pallbearer for people who had no one left. Paid $15 per funeral. Facting. Story 207. Considering a vasectomy reversal to have 2 to 3 more children. I have 2 and I'm plenty happy, but realistically supporting a family today, being an engaged father, and working full-time is a lot. If I did not have to work, I would happily dedicate more time to having more children. Story 208. I would still work in my current profession, but only 3 days a week. I would take vacation whenever I want. I would start a foundation to support people who provide care for their loved ones. Story 209. I would finish the academic year. I am a professor, and then I would decide. I like my job most of the time, but I might refuse to do certain tasks. Story 210. I will probably buy a modest house on a few acres with a large garage and spend my time puttering around the property. I will get a recreational vehicle and travel when the mood strikes. I will play a lot of disc golf, adopt several pets, and play guitar and pinball in my basement. Story 211. Improve society. I am going to make sure people have full bellies, warm beds, and healthcare. Story 212. I am lying on the couch, browsing Reddit. Maybe money would not change me. Story 213. Probably exactly what I am doing right now, but in a better house with a nicer phone. Story 214. I spend my time loving my wife and trying to be a good neighbor. I am retired and have few expenses, so I get to enjoy everything around me. Story 215. I will go to the gym in the morning, then ride my motorcycle all day. Story 216. I was sleeping. I just sent my kids off to school. I would go back to bed for a bit, then get ready to hit the gym. Instead, I am sitting in front of my computer at a folding table in the middle of my bedroom. Story 217. It depends on whether I can just cover my basic needs or have enough to do fun things. If I have enough, I would do a lot of fun activities. If not, I would work so I can afford them. Story 218. I would take a long vacation touring the Western United States, Europe, and Asia. Then I would return to work to avoid boredom and feel productive. Story 219. I fly fish in every worthwhile stream around the world with my son. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.